What's up, Shawn?
Joshua,
Good morning. Happy Friday.
it's Friday.
What's up, Shawn?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Oh
You'd
my
think
gosh.
a kid would learn to turn his volume down.
Right?
Ay,
Right?
ay.
Turn the volume down. So I don't know. For some people, this might be a holiday. We didn't take the day off because
Because my boss is a slave driver.
yeah, Shawn, that's not true. I actually asked you if you wanted the day off. No, I don't think I did this time. I actually asked, okay, full disclosure. I actually told these guys yesterday, hey, if I ever schedule something for a holiday, you got to let me know, because being a business owner and just trying to get things done, I sometimes forget. I know this is bad, but I'm going to say it anyway. I sometimes forget when it's a holiday. So I'll like schedule something and say, hey, we'll meet on Friday at noon. And if you guys don't tell me that it's a holiday and you show up at noon, then everybody's just going to be ticked that they had to work on a holiday, when really I just wasn't smart enough to know it was a holiday. So that's the full disclosure in terms of why we're here. Yesterday, I was like, wait, is tomorrow a holiday? I don't know. So we voted that we were not taking a holiday today. And I think the vote was 1-0 because I didn't count their votes. So. Is that fair?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's not true. I'm
Our
kidding.
votes get taken out. What night is your trash collected?
It's Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So that's, I know that my votes are recycled on Wednesdays.
Yeah. So I told a funny story when right after Shawn started, he asked the question, we were talking about something and he said, can I vote on that? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, you can vote on everything. You can vote on anything you want. I'm not going to count it, but like you can vote on it. Like I let my kids vote on whether they want to do chores or not. Like the votes don't count, but if it makes you feel better to vote, go for it. Vote. Whatever.
It's just like whose line is it anyway, where the games are made up and the points don't matter.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Like the questions are made up and the votes don't matter. No big deal.
One of these times you're going to make a comment like this and I'm just going to get off the live stream and you're going to
I'm just going to be sitting here in silence. I'll be like, okay, we'll see you on Tuesday. All right. So first things first, I'm totally nerding out a little bit this morning because I'm like a space nerd. So for Father's Day, my wife got me my my SpaceX Falcon 9 hat and my SpaceX shirt. Whoops, wrong side. That I'm wearing both of them today. So I decided to completely nerd out this morning, and I'm not even a bit embarrassed about it. So yeah. We're going to talk today. I was supposed to bring some news facts this morning, but I don't think I have any. I read a lot of the marketing news. There was nothing that was incredibly interesting. The only thing that's in the news still is all the big companies jumping off of Facebook advertising. Through a lot of consumer pressure, and what you're seeing is a lot of public companies jumping off because their bottom line is deeply impacted by consumer pressure. Here's one of the interesting things that I saw, Shawn, and I'm interested if anybody has opinions on this, but there's a few companies, like Coca-Cola is not advertising on Facebook right now. They also posted on Facebook that they're not posting on Facebook. Some of these other companies
Hold up. They posted on Facebook that they're
that they're not going to be posting anymore.
To appreciate that irony. The very thing they need to get their message out is the thing they're
right. I know. But here's the other thing that's interesting to me is some of these, I checked like probably about 6 or 7 of these big companies that have pulled their Facebook ad dollars.
Yeah.
And most of them are still posting on Facebook. So I'm like, it's very interesting that they're going to say, we're going to pull the ad dollars because we don't believe in what the platform is doing, but they're still afraid of losing that audience. So they're still connecting with them there. So it's really, really interesting.
What I think people need to remember here is I think this is going to get overinflated a little bit. Mm-hmm. Is that Facebook is just a representation of how people are in life without as much of a filter probably. And so a lot of what these companies are boycotting is that Facebook is not filtering either like incorrect or malicious content.
Right.
However, Facebook is just a vehicle for what people are already saying. You're not going to go to like the store and not patronize the store because somebody there is using malicious language. Come on. Like
the other thing that is really interesting about this, and I've not seen people talking about it in the news, but if I'm seeing malicious content in my Facebook feed, it's because I'm following those people. Right. So like these companies are talking about their ad is getting placed next to something malicious or there's malicious content not being filtered out. The thing is that nobody wants to mention is I filter out the content on Facebook because the only content I see is people that I follow. So if I don't want malicious content in my feed, there's not malicious content. Listen, my wife, I don't know if she agrees with me on this because we've had conversations about it, but I unfriend or unfollow people on Facebook all the time because there are plenty of people that I love dearly in real life. I do not like the way they're on Facebook, and I don't have to follow them, and I don't, because I don't want some of that junk in my news feed. But if there's malicious content or hateful speech in my Facebook feed, I put it there. Not I put it there. I allowed it to be there, right? From the people that I follow.
Yeah.
So Lois asked a question. So what does that mean for someone like you, a very small business? So I don't know what it'll mean in the end, but in theory, this is what it means. Facebook ads are an auction. So the pricing is based on auctioning. So it's no different than an in-person auction, right? If there's a certain thing that's being auctioned off, if there's a house that's being auctioned off and 30 people show up to bid on that house, chances are the price is going to be raised up higher than if 2 people show up to bid on that house.
Yep.
So what we anticipate seeing is the price for Facebook ads is actually going to go down because there's less competition. And as you can imagine, a lot of these big brands, they are bidding a lot of money to get in front of certain audiences. So the way they do it is the auction is based on who's trying to get in front of that audience. Now, what you may not see any difference if no one in the target space that you're going after. So if your target market does not overlap with Coca-Cola's and Verizon's and all of those companies, then you may not see a change. It should not, in theory, raise the price of Facebook ads. If anything, it should lower them. But ultimately, Facebook has control over where those auctions, the starting price of those auctions is. So they could jack up the price if they wanted to. I don't think they're going to do that because they're smart business people and they're not going to push the biggest spenders in Facebook ads are small and medium-sized businesses. They outspend large corporations, generally speaking. I don't think Facebook is going to alienate those customers because their big customers are jumping ship. So you should see the prices come down, if not stay the same, depending on what market you're in.
So to clarify a little bit, just because prices are decreasing doesn't necessarily mean you decrease your ad budget. It just means what you're spending goes further. So and it may, if you're getting the reach and the impressions that you want, then yeah, you may not have to spend as much. But really what this means is that what you do spend will go much further. It's not that you should actually increase or decrease your marketing budget.
Yeah. Yep. So that's a good segue, Shawn, because what we want to talk about today is we talked on Tuesday about strategy, and I want to dig a little bit deeper into marketing budgets, and then how do you create a strategy around that marketing spend? Because this is something that, I'll just be frank, a lot of small business owners are a little out of touch when it comes to marketing spend, and I don't mean that to be derogatory. I just mean that they're not thinking about how to spend those dollars well, because they're thinking about keeping the lights on and keeping payroll and doing all those things, right? And so there's really, you need to first think about what is your marketing budget. And typically what we've seen with small businesses is marketing gets put off to last. So if you have any money left over, you may or may not spend that on marketing, but people are not carving out that marketing budget up front. And so when you look at the industry as a whole, when you look at ad spend as a whole, what you'll see is that most companies are basing their marketing budget on their gross revenue. So total amount of money that they bring in. They say, if we bring in $100,000, we're going to take some percentage of that and allocate it to marketing. Now, what percentage do you use? It varies wildly based on industry. And even looking at the statistics, there's lots of big companies that gather these statistics and put them together. Even their numbers vary wildly. So I did a lot of research this week and just try to look at these big companies and see, okay, where are they actually falling? Where does the number seem to be based on all the averages of what they're saying? And so to give you some examples, like they say in the retail industry, which is normally the highest ad spend because it's so competitive, they're at around 20% of their gross revenue. Now, we've seen numbers as low as 3%. We've seen numbers in the 8 to 10% range. The most recent data from 2019 is looking like retailers are spending close to 20% of their gross revenue. That's a lot of money. So for example, if that's a $100,000 a year company, they're spending $20,000 or about $1,700 a month on marketing and advertising. And then, there's some other companies where, like the electronics industry, which is a big industry, they're only around 8% of gross that they're spending on marketing. So it really varies greatly depending on industry. But the point is, they have some allocated number that they're using for determining how much they should be spending on marketing. Here's the other thing. If you're a B2B company, like we are, business to business company, typically your ad spend has to increase because it's just harder to sell B2B than it is B2C, generally speaking. And so the thing I don't like, I like the idea of just having a set number based on your gross revenue. The thing where I think people get in trouble with that model is if things get tough, like when you're in a difficult market right now where COVID's happening and businesses are getting shut down. And what happens is your gross revenue goes down. People get scared. They spend fewer marketing dollars. Here's the problem with that. Right now, marketing costs are down. Marketing is on sale based on all these things that are happening in the world. So if you kept your marketing spend the same dollar amount, you actually get more bang for your buck because everything is on sale. So when the economy gets bad, people roll back their marketing because their gross revenue might go down. In reality, marketing is on sale. If anything, you should keep it the same. You might even think about increasing the budget because you're getting things on sale. You have anything to add to that, Shawn?
I did, and then I got distracted probably by a bumblebee or something, and I lost it.
Okay. So I just want to give a little. Okay. Interrupt me when you do.
Yep.
I want to give you a little bit of context. So big companies are spending a lot of money on marketing. And so I think one of the misnomers is that people think that big companies, they got lucky. Some of them did, of course. Some of them are just really smart with their marketing dollars. And they're spending way more on marketing. And so way more people know about their company because they're spending money on marketing. So for example, PetSmart last year, and I might have mentioned this before on the show, I read that they spent $240 million on marketing last year. $240 million. They're spending $2 million a month on marketing. So if you've heard of PetSmart, it's not by chance, it's by marketing, right? They're spending tons of money. Salesforce.com, if you guys have heard of Salesforce.com, I read that they spend an estimated 46% of their gross revenue on sales and marketing. 46%. Can you imagine? So take your business, think about how much gross income you had in 2019, and then take half of that, spending half of that money on marketing. It's crazy. And it's risky. And I'm not recommending that you spend 50% of your gross revenue on marketing, but there's a reason that Salesforce is growing the way that it is because they're putting massive amounts of time, energy, and money into marketing. So here's the takeaway I want you guys to have. Even if you're a small business, allot something for marketing if you're trying to grow your business, or if you're even trying to deepen the value that you have to your customers. Set aside something. Set aside $100. Set aside $1,000. Whatever it is, put something into marketing because one of your competitors is. And if you don't do it, they are going to. And a lot of these companies that are stable, you hit times like this where there's a lot of instability and you don't know what's going to happen, especially if you've not been getting in front of your market.
I remember what I was going to say.
Okay, go.
That I think when people, especially in times like this, where it's like, hey, big names are no longer advertising on Facebook. Maybe I should jump on that bandwagon. We're not really sure what the future is going to hold. Like, do I need to kind of hold on to money? The problem is, in general, you're competing with large companies for people's attention, and they're going to destroy you every time, just in general. So what opportunities like this provide is when they pull back, is you're no longer competing with them for attention. So that's one of the reasons why it gets cheaper. Mm-hmm. But the other way you kind of combat that when you talk about well, I'm investing money and, our budget compared to big companies is laughable. But if you can target your audience enough, you'll get the message in front of the right people, and that competition won't matter because they're going to listen to your message more than they'll listen to just a general message from like a Coca-Cola.
Right.
And so like that's something that like I think people far too often forget. They think like, oh, I can't like spend that money because, you know, I'm not like this huge massive company yet, but you're still competing for people's attention. And so you have to know how to navigate that and find opportunities to take advantage of with that kind of in that light. So yeah, when these other guys are pulling back, that's when you kind of go all in and take advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. And so that's a good transition, Shawn, to what I want to talk about next, which is if you have a marketing budget, where do you spend it? Right. So it's great that you allocate $100, $250, $1,000, $10,000, whatever to marketing, but where in the world do you spend it? It's really dependent on what your company goals are. And again, you guys hear us talk about this all the time, but if you're spending money, you better be able to tie it back to a company goal so that you're spending it wisely and not just throwing it away. So let's take the example of if you're trying, well, let me step back. There's two places you spend your advertising money, your marketing money. It's content creation and distribution, right? That's it. Content creation and distribution. Now, again, if somebody wants to be nitpicky, there are other, subcategories in there. I'm sure there are other places you can spend money, but generally that's where you spend it. Content creation and distribution. So content creation, here's the thing. Content creation is expensive. And I know that your cousin's cousin can create a video for you for $200. I know, we hear it all the time. The question is, can they create the right video for you? And there's to give you a reference point. So there's another company that I started called Nibble Nutrition, and it's kind of on hiatus at the moment, but we had a brand video put together. That brand video, and we were not a rich company by any means. That brand video cost us $10,000 for a 1-minute video. Okay. And that's far from the most expensive brand video that you will ever find. But the brand video is absolutely perfect for what we were trying to do. And that's why it was worth $10,000. Could I have shot a video on my cell phone for $100? Shoot it on my cell phone, send it to Fiverr, pay somebody $100 and get them to edit it? Sure. It is not going to be in the same ballpark of what we paid $10,000 for. I'm not telling you to go pay $10,000 for a brand video. I'm telling you, you get what you pay for when it comes to content creation, and good content creation is expensive. There's no way around it. It's art, it's expensive, and to do it right, it costs money. Okay. So it's okay if you only have $100 to spend $100 on a video and get it done. I'm okay with that. The thing is, know that can't be your end game. Right? That can't be your end game. If you're trying to grow your company, you have to, at some point, allot more money to content creation. The good thing about content creation and about good content creation is that you can create a content library that you can consistently go back to. This is why hiring the right people matter, because they will create a content library for you so that if you're paying them for content, they're being smart about creating reusable content. Okay. The brand video that we had created, it's something that we can use for the next 5 years, right? By cutting it up into pieces. That's why we pay good money for it.
Well, so this is where I think Erie is at a disadvantage, is that because we're so used to everything being cheaper in terms of cost of living, how much it costs to go out to eat, what it costs to hire somebody. All of that is significantly cheaper than other industries. The problem is, as soon as you step outside the Erie market, you're now competing with businesses who are paying substantially more for marketing and content creation.
Yeah.
What that means is they're used to a higher standard. And so if you come in with a kind of a substand, like you're never going to compete with someone who's investing more in, I shouldn't say never, that's hyperbolic, but it's much more difficult for sure to compete with an audience that's used to a higher standard of content when, we're used to like paying kind of Erie prices for what you're trying to do. It just doesn't translate well. And that's something that's definitely kind of a challenge for Erie.
Yeah. And to be full disclosure, when we put together the brand video for Nibble, we actually flew someone in from Michigan to do the video. It's not that there are not people in Erie that do video. The style that we were looking for, we couldn't find someone to do that style and do it well. And so the content that we have created, I know with that video, and we'll share it we should share that video, Shawn, in the in the email that goes out so you guys can see it and you can form your own opinion on it. I'm sure I'm biased, but that video will play well in New York City, not just in Erie. We didn't create that video to play in Erie against other content created in Erie. We created that video to play well in Los Angeles against content that's being created in Los Angeles. And they are just ahead of us, right? It's just the reality. They're just ahead of us.
So Sarah has a really, really good question. And I think there's a lot of layers to this, but how long does it take to find your market on social media to truly find out who is looking for you in your business genre?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I don't think
go into that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's as much time as it is depth of really digging into it. So I don't know how far down this path to go. So if I start going too far, Shawn, feel free to stop me. But when you're looking at finding your target market, finding your market on social media, there's a lot of analysis that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of testing that needs to be done. Now that testing can take time or it can take money, right? It's one of two things. I mean, it's going to take money either way, but more time or more money. And so the way we do this testing is we take your current audience, and in Facebook, for example, you can create what they call lookalike audiences, which means you take like the list of people that have purchased from you, all the identifiable information is removed. So Facebook doesn't actually know who any of those people are. They actually encode all the data. So nobody at Facebook can even see any names, email addresses, anything like that. So a lot of people that are complaining about the privacy on Facebook, they don't actually understand how Facebook is privatizing data. Facebook is going above and beyond, like beyond what your bank is doing to encode data, Facebook is doing. And so all that data is encoded. But the point is, you can say, create an audience for me that looks like these people. And so when you do that, Facebook it's trying to figure out, are the people that currently purchased from you, can we figure out what those people look like in different markets and then attract them to your website? And then it goes even deeper than that, because you run this ad to people that look like your current audience, and you can run it in Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Cleveland, Los Angeles, however you want to reach into different markets. And then you can then retarget them. So the people that visited my website from that ad, show them a different ad. So it's really this depth of creating different funnels to try things and seeing which funnel produces the best results. Because whatever funnel produces, the best results, those are your people. And so it's a lot of creative testing. So more so than time, it's creativity and testing, which again, it takes money. The more money, the less time, and vice versa.
Well, I think that I don't know that there's ever truly you've reached the destination in fully having a defined market. It's kind of this ongoing process of, as you do more, you learn more about the people that you're supposed to be talking to. And so I think for us to put like an end date, like, oh yeah, in 6 months, you'll know with this kind of articulation, this is who your audience is. I think what the benchmark is, can you figure out how many people you need to have coming to your website to then, get a certain number of people to actually purchase something, to actually reach whatever your financial goals are for a month or for a year or whatever. I think that's a better benchmark than to know like, okay, in 6 months, I can know who my audience is. No. Set like, this month, I want to make $1 million. How many people do you need to actually purchase from you to reach that goal? And then how many people do you need to actually come to your website or to see a Facebook post to make that happen? That should probably be better benchmark than to kind of walk into it and say, how long does it take me to understand who my audience is? Because that's kind of a never ending kind of pursuit.
Yeah. And one more layer I'm going to add into that is, the other thing is, this is why we're so heavy on brand. If you put out the right content that really conveys what your brand is, it's just about distribution and getting in front of people. The right people will come to you. The mistake people make is they start chasing people and saying like, oh, we need to do this. We need to sell this product. We need to put out this message because that's what people are going to like. No. Don't put out what people like. Put out who you are. Be true to that. And the right group of people will be attracted to that. Again, your messaging can change and you can tweak that to make it better, but it's about putting out the content that says, this is who we are. This is what we believe. The right people will come to you as opposed to you chasing them.
So we have a couple follow-up questions from Sarah. The first one, really good, because we literally just talked about this yesterday, is do you think marketing budget should be broken down into testing and revenue generating?
Yes, you beat me to it, because this was the next part of what I was going to talk about. Is if you have a $5,000 marketing budget, a $2,000 marketing budget, it doesn't matter what it is. When you think about your goals, for example, if you're trying to break into a new market, whether that's a new product or service, or whether that's a new geographic location, you're trying to go into a new market, what we always recommend is go into that market with brand content first. So you might say, okay, we're trying to break into a market in Miami. And so what we're going to do is we're going to run brand focused ads in Miami. And so of our 100% of the money that we have to work with, we're going to spend 50% of that on content creation. We're going to spend 30 to 40% of it on brand marketing, and we'll spend 10% on direct marketing. And so the idea is, let's create content. So we start building a content library. Let's go into that market with brand, but you can always spend a little bit of money on direct marketing to get some sales as well. So yes, it should always be broken down like that. We've talked about this balance of brand and direct marketing. So in the beginning, going into a new market, you're very, very brand heavy. And then once you run a bunch of brand advertising, then you start to switch the scale so that you're running more more direct marketing to drive more sales once people know who you are. The problem is people go in and they say, okay, we're going to run ads to sell products, and your cost per sale is going to be through the roof. And so you might sell a bunch of products, but your ROI is 3%. Shawn, what are you doing?
So I think this is a perfect plug for this book. It's one that I'm reading right now. And so Gary Vaynerchuk is a guy that we follow, really kind of an industry leader when it comes to marketing. His book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, talks very, very kind of, his series of books really, really gets to this idea. But excuse me, Corona. I promise I don't have Corona. Like, don't.
You're stuck in your house anyway, so.
No, I'm going to be self-conscious about coughing, and that's all I'm going to do. But what he does is he uses this analogy of fighting. Is fighters, when they get into the ring, they never go straight for like the knockout punch. What they have to do is they have to spend rounds and rounds and rounds of jabbing at guys to get them in position so that the knockout punch is effective. And Gary says that we should approach marketing the same way. You can't walk into the first time you interact with somebody and throw a knockout punch that's going to land a sale, because it's not going to work. What you have to do is you have to have things in place that's kind of jabbing at them and getting them in position so that they're ready to buy. The problem is people only want to invest in right hook marketing, this like big, profound message that's going to directly land a sale. You have to spend time and money investing in those jabs that make the knockout punch more effective. And so a lot of what we do is what are the jabs that we lay the foundation of, especially when we enter a new market or launch a new product, that's going to set up the knockout punch and return a much larger investment when that happens. And so people, I think, tend to think everything you do has to be a knockout punch, and that's just not the way it works. You have to really like lay the foundation that gets people in a position where they're ready to purchase before you throw the like, here's our really like strong like knockout punch marketing campaign that's going to land a lot of sales. Yeah.
I want to touch on exactly what Sarah asked as well, because she asked about, should it be broken down into testing and revenue generating? I would break it down into branding and revenue generating, because here's one of the things we love about digital marketing. It's all testing. You get all the data no matter what. So if you run a billboard, it's very hard to test with a billboard. It's very hard to test with a radio ad. Not saying you shouldn't do them. There's a time and place for it, but it's very hard to test that way. With digital marketing, you get all the data no matter what. So every time you're running a Facebook ad or a LinkedIn ad, you are testing. Every time you run Google AdWords, you are testing, because you get all the data to go along with it.
So Sarah asked another question, and I think we've kind of already answered it, but I just want to make sure we address it. So as a business owner, should she break it down so she doesn't have false expectations of immediate sales? And I think that gets back to, yes, you should, but it's more knowing brand probably isn't going to have as much of a direct return on investment as a direct marketing sales, but brand and that kind of like jab mentality sets people up so that your direct marketing plug is much more effective.
Yeah. And so a lot of people have false expectations when it comes to social media because they think it's the magic bullet, right? They think I can run a Facebook ad. Now you can run a Facebook ad and drive traffic to your website. There are lots of variables between getting an ad in front of somebody and then purchasing from your website, right? There's a lot of variables there. And so it's why brand, again, is so important, because you have to get the right people there that are attracted to you based on the messaging that you're putting out. And in brand marketing, the hard thing for business owners to understand is brand marketing, you can't measure the ROI on it. One of the things that Shawn was talking about, Gary Vee, one of the things Gary Vee says all the time is, what's the ROI on your mom? Right? Like there are things that are very valuable that you can't measure the ROI on. And we don't even try to, except when it comes to business, we're like, every dollar that I spend, I have to be able to measure the ROI on it. Well, the reality is you can't measure ROI on brand marketing. But that doesn't mean that it's not valuable. And the proof is just about every company that you can name you can name them because they spent money on brand marketing. It's not the other way around. It's not that you know their brand and so they're paying for brand marketing to keep you top of mind. You know who they are because they spent money to make that happen. Yeah, I mean, Sarah, that's a really good point. Sarah had another comment about not very learned in the power of brand social media. Business owners are not, because here's the thing. There's a great book called, I think it's called E-Myth Revisited. There's E-Myth and E-Myth Revisited. And it talks about this idea that most business owners are practitioners, right? Like you started out doing something. Like if you make pies, you're really good at making pies and you're like, oh, I could sell these. You're not necessarily a business person. You're a pie maker that has now become a business person. Yeah. And so part of why business owners are not learned in this stuff is because that's not what they do, right? Like it's not what they do. And some of them are good at business. Like, listen, I know Sarah well enough to know, like she has very good intuitive business sense. But when it comes to these nitty gritty details of, the analytics behind brand marketing and social media marketing, or brand marketing and direct marketing, I'm sorry. I don't expect business owners to know that. That's part of why we try to be very open and honest with business owners and tell them, like, listen, we're going to run some ads and they may or may not work. Here's what we know. We will collect the data and the next one will be better. But we wouldn't expect business owners to be learning on that. That's the whole point of what we're trying to do here, is to get you guys at least the tip of the iceberg when it comes to understanding this stuff, so that and I've said this a million times, I don't care if you guys hire us. It's not about that. I want, when somebody calls you and tries to sell you an ad, for you to be able to have an educated conversation with them. So when they say things like, oh yeah, we're going to do, you should spend $3,000 a month on a billboard, you can say, why? Right? Why? How does that match up with my business goals? Right? Like, am I able to track any of that data? What kind of data can you give me about the effectiveness of my billboard? I want you guys to start asking these questions so you can spend your money in the right places. I don't care whether that's us or somebody else that knows what they're doing. Spending your money in the right places is so important for small business, especially when the economy is tough. You have to spend your money in the right places.
Yep. Yeah.
And so part of it is like, we could be making all this up, right? Like it's where trust comes in. I hope that we're building trust with you guys, but when it comes to brand marketing, it is trust. You have to put it out there and see what happens, and nobody knows the right answer. So of that $240 million that PetSmart spent, they know that probably 80 million of it was on ineffective marketing, right? It's just the way the marketing game goes. It's art and science combined, and the art part of it, nobody can get it right every time. Nike, if you read, there's a great book called Shoe Dog, which is written by the founder of Nike, Phil Knight. And he talks about some of they have an incredible marketing company that they hire. They do their marketing. They hire it out. They have an incredible company that they use. That company has made some amazing mistakes over the years. I mean, marketing campaigns that they paid hundreds of millions of dollars for, that they ran the ad for 2 days and pulled the ad, right? After spending hundreds of millions of dollars in market research and content creation and all these things. And then maybe hundreds of millions is a little, tens of millions of dollars for sure. And then they run the ad for 2 days and they pull it, right? Like that's a tough pill to swallow when you just wrote a check for 10 million bucks and now your marketing doesn't work. That's how marketing works, right? You win some, you lose some. It's a competition, and you win some, you lose some. That doesn't mean that it's any less valuable. So guys, here's what I want the takeaways to be. One, I don't care what the marketing budget is, carve out a marketing budget. I don't care if that means you're hiring somebody on 99 Designs to do a couple images for you. I don't care if that means you're, if you only have $100 and you need to, call around to the colleges and find some college kid who can create a couple graphics for you, do it. If it means you have $100 and you're going to spend it to take a course on how to use Canva so that you can create your own graphics, I don't care what it is. I care that you're actually putting money back into your business to grow it, because if you're not, your competitors are, and I don't want you guys to get left behind. The other thing is I want you guys to
do it. Now you have a little bit more freedom to test things. You're going to have hopefully it's going to be a little bit more cost effective for you to just explore a little bit. So now's really the time if you have the ability to do so.
Yep. And really start thinking about putting that money into two places. Content creation. If you don't have a content library, if you don't already have some photos and videos and stuff built up, spend a little bit of that money, whatever you can, on content creation. The other things you should be spending it on is advertising. You're paying for brand marketing and direct marketing. And again,
where you and I are going to disagree a little bit. And I feel like this is important.
I love disagreements. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and I may eat my words later, but I think if you're just starting out, if you're just looking to explore some things, your phone or what you can do yourself on Canva are more than enough for a couple of reasons. One is people forget content all the time. So like if you produce bad content, it's not going to hurt you that much. Like in the age where you just scroll through a news feed, bad content is easily forgotten. So don't think that that's a huge risk. Go take pictures on your phone. Like it's okay to do bad content, just create content. Save yourself the money on content creation and invest that in something like getting in front of more people, because that's where you're really going to learn who your audience is and what they're like, the kind of content they're looking for. So I'm going to disagree with Joshua a little bit. I say invest in getting your content in front of people if you're looking to explore some things. And then later on, when you can invest a significant chunk, go ahead and start investing in better content. But yeah, I don't know, Joshua.
I'm not going to completely concede the point, but yes, that's another. If you have the time and energy to create content, for sure, spend all your money on distribution. I know from following you guys that a lot of you are not creating enough content.
Well, so that's fair.
But yes, absolutely. Shawn's point is incredibly valid. You can create content yourself. Lois has been doing a fantastic job of creating a massive amount of content. And so if Lois wants to reach further into the market or deeper into the market, she could put a little bit of money into advertising to target or to get more reach, because she's creating content. A lot of people are not creating enough content.
Here's where I know we both agree is it is going to take an investment in either time or money, and probably more than you're already doing.
Yes. That we can agree on.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, Joshua, this is fun. And the problem is I think it's fun for us because we talk about it all the time.
Yeah. I don't know if it's fun for anybody else, but hey, if nothing else, we get to talk for an hour and have a good conversation and enjoy it. So
let's pretend that's not always the case anyway.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much. I hope this is helpful. Again, as always, if you have questions about this stuff, reach out. We're more than happy to answer the questions. Thank you guys for the good questions this morning. We will see you guys on Tuesday. I hope you have a good 4th of July. Spend some time with family, regroup, reconnect, and we will see you guys Tuesday at 9 a.m. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Hold on. I'm going to keep this going.
Oh, that's awkward.
Yeah. All right. But I want to make sure Sarah gets connected with this page. Lois, I hope it's cool. I'm going to give you a shout out. Let me make sure I spell it right. Can we do a blooper reel, but that's still live? What's that called?
I think that's called
after hours.
I think that's called a mess up that's boring for the audience. I don't know.
And we're done. Hold on. Oh, if I can just, it's Quantum Balance Erie. What's her page?
Why don't you just, how about this, guys? I'm going to help Shawn out. Sarah, we'll post it in the comments. They still show up even when the show's not live. I don't know if Shawn knows this.
Okay, bye. We're leaving.
All right, guys. See ya.